everybody, welcome back to Q-Tips. We are the Video Store Junkies, and we are back once again to bring you a few recommendations to watch on streaming over the weekend. So we're going to get it going, and I'm going to kick this over to Paul.
Oh, why, thank you, Renee. We record this sometimes around dinner time, and you know what? If you're hungry, there's a great movie. It's The Menu from just 2022. It's on HBO Max. It stars Anna Taylor-Joy, Ralph. Sorry about
Is
that.
it Ralph Fiennes?
Ralph Fiennes, Ray Fiennes, Nicholas Hoult, and John Leguizamo. It is a dark comedy. It is sort of it does not involve cannibalism, though you would put it sort of squarely in the eat the rich genre of class warfare, where you have a bunch of rich assholes go to this exclusive restaurant run by chef played by Ralph Fiennes, and it is their menu, as it were, the menu, and they're on this island, and it is fantastic. Most of the characters are terrible pure people, which works out really well. It is very funny, wickedly funny, very dark. The food is gorgeous. It was actually prepared by there's a French chef, Dominique Crenn, who has a three Michelin star restaurant, and she's the one who actually designed the food for it. And apparently, even the food was shot by like the person who shoots. I guess there's a show called Chef's Table. And when you watch it, make sure you watch for the little cards that have what it'll show like what the item is and what the ingredients are. It's really funny. It's great. That's pretty much all I got to say for it. Don't want to give any spoilers, but it's one that I've watched a couple times, and it keeps up to repeat viewing. So that's The Menu on HBO Max, and highly recommend this. And speaking about things that are highly recommended, I will pass this to Bill Mulligan.
Why, thank you, sir. My theme for this week is simply blood. So I will start with 1984's Blood Simple.
Yay!
A neo-noir crime drama, which is just great film. A nice, great low-budget film. But boy, when you're watching this, you are seeing the beginnings of some really top-notch talent here. This is the first film produced and directed and edited, can't forget the editing because it's top-notch, by Joel and Ethan Coen. The Coen brothers have brought us some great stuff since then. And, sometimes it's kind of fun looking at the early films of great filmmakers, and you're like, wow, that was terrible, but I saw the seed of genius, like Piranha 2. This one's just damn good. They were firing on all cylinders when they start out, and unlike a lot of really good indie filmmakers, once they were given the chance to actually work with a union crew on a big budget, they kept on knocking it out of the park. I mean, these guys, and they're still going strong, so it's who knows how many more classics will be added to the list. But Blood Simple's got, not just them, it's also got John Getz, and the first film of Frances McDormand, who went on to do lots of great films, including some with the Coen brothers. It's got Emmett Walsh, so you have that going. And it's just classic film noir. A bartender who, next thing you know, he's in the middle of a murder plot, and there's love affairs, and there's all kinds of twists and turns, and you don't know who's going to make it to the end. It's also got cinematography by Barry Sonnenfeld, who would go on to become a pretty good director himself. Just good all the way through. I don't want to give away too much, but there's some sequences in here that are just so great. A few that I think have been used since. The scene where bullets are being fired into a dark barn. You can see the light coming through the bullet holes. Boy, that just feels like a cliche now, but it just, you see here the seeds of what would become Raising Arizona and other things, although this is pretty far from a comedy. But it's on HBO Max, and if you have not seen that, highly recommend it. And I will also highly recommend the opinion of the next person on the list, Renee.
Well, thank you very much. And I would also second the menu. I thought that Judith Leggett was quite good in that movie. And Jahon Leguizamo, I thought he was quite good in that movie. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm only picking on Zach because he's not here. So
You mean Zeke?
yeah, Zeke. I was referring to Judith Light and John Leguizamo, who were both in the menu. It's nice. You never see Judith Light anymore, so it's always nice when she pops up somewhere. It's like
Yeah, and she did a good job in it too. I
she
like it.
did. It's like when you see Candice Bergen pop up somewhere, and you're like, "Oh, that's nice." So that my first movie is just a little bit odd. You know when you start watching a movie and you're like, what have I gotten myself into? But then you realize that you're in too deep. Like it's been maybe about an hour and it's just too late to turn back. That's kind of what happened with this movie. But it really wasn't too bad. It was just kind of weird. Anyhow, this movie is called Blue Monkey.
Oh,
It's
jeez.
Sometimes I love when I do a movie and I just know, like I know you're gonna know what
Yeah.
movie I'm talking. I love it so much. So this movie is just kind of strange. Hospital goes into lockdown after they received a patient who is infected with a mysterious ailment, and it has oh shit, what's his name? Steve Rails
Yeah,
something.
Railsbeck, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I believe that is his name. So that's really the only like notable. No offense to anybody else in this movie. I think that's like really the only notable person I could think of. There are some other people in it that you would definitely recognize. But yeah, so that's my recommendation.
Wow.
It is Blue Monkey, and I spoiler alert: there are no monkeys. There are no monkeys in this
No.
movie.
Blue or otherwise, there are no monkeys.
No.
I was really looking forward to the monkeys. I was a
I-
little disappointed.
I have not thought of this movie in decades, and yet I
No.
actually had the poster because
Oh no way!
Oh wow.
they were scattering them around my campus at college, and it was a pretty good little poster. So I grabbed a bunch of them and to see this movie. I'm like, did someone lose a bet that they had to call it Blue Monkey because it makes no sense. Unless I slept through it. Was there any reference that codename Blue Monkey or something? Because I really missed it.
No.
Oh.
I don't remember there being a reference to it. Like, yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah.
why would
Pretty
you
sure
do
there
that?
was not. I don't know. And even the cover is like doesn't even really connect to the movie. Like it's strange and it looks sort of, I don't know, it's just the strangest thing.
Got a giant bug. There's no. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, Blue Monkey from 1987. It's
Yeah.
available. Where else do you think it's available? On Tubi,
Wee.
of course.
Tubi.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my recommendation. And I'm gonna pass this back to Paul.
If I remembered anything about it except for I've got like a vague image of like a couple of shots of the creature and the fact that there were no blue monkeys in it. I'm not sure if I can if I can second it or not, but I'll trust you on it. So
Yeah, go for it.
because I do remember watching it. So my second film. So my theme, I did the menu. So my theme is food related, and I'll take you back 40 years to 1982. Oh my God, did I just say 40 years to 1982? I guess it's 41 years now to Eating Raoul.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, directed by the great Paul Bartel, and he co-wrote it with Richard Blackburn, and it stars Paul Bartel and Mary Warnov as Paul and Mary Bland, the stuck-up couple that wants to open their restaurant Chez Bland, but they don't really have the money for it, and they they really hate their neighbors in their condo because their neighbors are all a bunch of swingers. Till they realize their neighbors, the swingers, apparently have a lot of money, and they figure out a way to get the money from the swingers. And then till they basically somebody finds out, and that's Raoul, played by Robert Beltran. Which every time I cannot watch Star Trek Voyager without just chuckling to myself that Chakotay is Raoul from Eating Raoul. It is hilarious. It is a black comedy. It's currently playing on HBO Max and Criterion. It is a wonderful film. I absolutely love it. It is just pure greatness from Paul Bartel and Mary Warnov, who, by the way, have cameos as Paul and Mary Bland in Chopping Mall.
Yes, they do.
So, yeah, but it's a great film, and I absolutely love it. Highly recommend it. It's on HBO Max, so make it a double feature of The Menu and Eating Raoul on HBO Max, or you can also catch it on Criterion. And speaking of Doris the Dominatrix, that comes from Eating Raoul. I'll pass this to Renee.
Oh, I was like, well, that's a neat
wait.
segue for
I
Bill.
meant Zach. Sorry, no, wait,
Yeah.
Zach, no, Bill.
Yeah,
Bill. Speaking
yeah.
of Doris the Dominatrix, I'll pass it to Bill.
Well, thank you.
Sorry, it's all that crack I've been smoking. Oh, did I say that loud?
Yes,
Cut
you
that out,
did.
would you? I certainly did not say anything about crack.
That's the
So
crack
anyway,
talking.
I'll pass this to Bill.
I'll second that too. I saw that in the theaters when it came out, one of the few, and I love that movie. I love that movie because I love Mary Warrenoff, and you got to see all of her. So yeah, she is a sexy little mittenhound. She is smart lady too. Really, if you listen to her interviews, really intelligent. Okay, so continuing with the theme, blood. I'm gonna do something I thought I would never do. I'm going to recommend with reservations an Andy Milligan movie, Blood, from 1972. Now, if you don't know who Andy Milligan is, God bless you. And if you don't, you need to find out because Andy Milligan. Wow. Andy Milligan's one of those filmmakers whose life story is far more interesting and terrifying than his awful films. He made a bunch of them. He made them cheap. He's incompetent. They look like stage plays, and he did a lot of stage plays. The makeup is dreadful. He shoots his movies. He had like a camera. He had this little handheld camera. He did everything. He did everything in his movies. And here's the thing: he is truly, what's that French word for like great filmmaker? Auteur? Or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I never knew. I use it. I write it all the time, but I've never actually had to use it because none of my friends are douche nozzles. So we just say things like he makes a lot of good films. Whereas if we were French, we had to say he is truly a fine auteur. Now, Andy Milligan, there's nothing like an Andy Milligan movie, and within 12 seconds of watching it, I know I'm watching an Andy Milligan movie. So, in a sense, in the truest sense of the word, he was an artist, and he does give a world view. His films can be taken; they show a cohesive whole. What they show is this horrifying view of humanity. There's so much to say about Andy Milligan. And a lot of it is bad. If you need to read the book, you need to read the book, The Weirdo, The Twisted Life of Andy Milligan or something to get all just miserable existence from his birth to his death. And yet he did have fans. Now, okay, haven't said anything about this movie, Blood. It's literally the only Andy Milligan movie I've been able to watch from beginning to end without hitting the fast forward button. So in that sense, it's his best film. It actually has more than just a bunch of people screaming at each other how much they hate each other, which is, in a nutshell, Andy Milligan movie. This one actually has a plot. It's about, here's Tubi's description, because of course it's on Tubi. A scientist who studies werewolf transformations, all while being married to the daughter of Dracula, starts experimenting with plants that only eat flesh. And this is all over the place. Keep this in mind. He probably never spent more than $5,000 on a movie. Shot on film. I doubt the words, let's do another take, ever escape from his lips. His lighting is the worst lighting I've ever seen. I would not accept this in any film festival I've ever been involved with. He just shines a light on him, and there's these big giant shadows on the wall. No attempt is made to get rid of them. It is just so subpar. But by gosh, this movie's got, it stars a bunch of people you'll never hear of again. But one of them, Hope Stansbury, is really quite attractive and works. She's got that starving artist in New York sort of thing. And normally, a woman who looks like that would have been making porn in New York. But she had the bad fortune to instead be making Andy Milligan movies. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. I don't know what to say. The only reason, I mean, it's actually kind of fun. Oh, it's got vampires and werewolves, and it ends with Frankenstein. Oh, he just throws the wall at stuff, and it's much more bearable than most of his things. The only reason I wouldn't recommend it is that you might like it enough then explore more Andy Milligan movies. And then you're going to be watching the ghastly ones, and they were so bad. They're so bad. But, you start watching them, and then you start watching more, and you're just like, I think I know this guy. I think I understand where he's coming from, and it's a bad place to be in the mind of Andy Milligan. He, no relation to me. It's Milligan, not Mulligan. But he did make his movies in Staten Island, which is where I was born and spent some years as a young lad and visited all the time. And I think to myself, I was really into horror movies as a kid. If I knew that this guy was making movies in the 70s, I would have sought him out.
Mm-hmm.
They would have.
You were born in Staten Island?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I used to spend my summers there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
with my cousin.
You may recognize some of the houses that Andy Milligan used, some of the old houses there and everything. I would have sought this guy out and tried to be on the set. And somewhere in the basement of that house is where they would find my raped dead body. And that would have been the story of me. So, 1972's Blood, directed by the one and only Andy Milligan on Tubi. May God have mercy on your soul. And I throw this back for hopefully something that'll bring things up a little bit. Renee.
Well, hey, you know what other movie Steve Railsback was in?
What? You've done that after Blue Monkey?
It's called Life Force.
Life Force.
Oh, God almighty. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So, okay, I'm going to keep this pretty short and simple. Space vampires.
Well, Renee.
That's my pitch.
Naked space vampires.
Oh, that's right. Naked space vampires.
Naked?
She was legal then, right? Like, just barely. Yeah. God bless.
It's
Yeah, I was
man.
like, I didn't want to say anything about sexy naked vampires because I wasn't sure if I was going to get, like, arrested. Anyhow, so this movie is interesting, kind of fun. The effects are a lot of fun. It's just kind of goofy and fun and weird. Yeah, so Life
weird.
Force.
Yeah.
Emphasis on weird. It's available, surprise, surprise, on Tubi and Hoopla and Pluto and Freevee.
In the 80s when cocaine was cheap.
Yeah.
And Patrick Stewart had hair. He was in it too.
I love that movie, but it feels like every actor in it thinks they're in a different movie.
You say it like that's wrong. Like there's something wrong about that.
I mean, I don't know what Tobe Hooper was thinking when he directed these people, because some of them seem to, they're like swinging for the fences because they think this is high comedy, and then some of them are playing it dead serious. And boy, it's just a strange, crazy pants movie. It's also a remake of 5 Million Years to Earth. Oh, there you go.
Oh,
unofficial.
Yeah, so I thought it was a nice accompaniment to Blue Monkey.
Yeah, it's one of the 3 movies that after they let Tobe Hooper do on a big budget, and he lost a fortune on every single one of them, and that's why he spent the last years of his life directing Sci-Fi Channel crap.
Oh man,
yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah, we have a late arriver. Zach, are you ready for me to pass this off to you?
You know what? I'm ready. I don't know if you're ready for my recommendation though, because I only have one.
Snap.
I know I got here late,
and perfect.
I gotta let the dog out here in a minute. But I saw a movie last night that I could not withhold from you guys and the masses, all of our adoring fans. So I don't know what to say about this movie. But you know how sometimes you just and I know all of you will be familiar with this feeling because you watch a lot of bad horror movies. But you ever just watch a horror movie, especially like an older horror movie, and you're just amazed at how little actually happens in the movie?
Yeah.
Well, I think I have a contender for the horror film with the least amount of, I would say the least amount of horror, but also the least amount of plot. And also possibly the least amount of like coherent narrative.
This is going to be great.
Yeah, it's great. The film I'm talking about, maybe some of you are familiar with this one, 1983's The Prey. This is a very, very shameless kind of cash in on Well, I would say it's a cash in on a lot of the like slasher films of this era. Although actually, now that I think about it, it's probably not because apparently this movie was shot in 1979, and for some weird reason, it sat on the shelf for 4 years. But it does seem like a ripoff of those movies because it's about a group of nubile young. I don't know if they're supposed to be teenagers or 20-somethings, whatever. Most of them look like they're like 30. You know how in these old like horror movies, like the girls look like they're 20 and the guys look like they're like 35. Well, yeah,
Right.
so anyways, so yeah, they go for a nice camping trip in the California wilderness. But unbeknownst to them, apparently, I don't know, some gypsy guy, and I'm using that term. I know that's I know that's a racist term now. I'm just using it because that's the term that they use in the movie. And I realize it's very insensitive, but apparently there was some gypsy man or boy who was burned in a forest fire or something. I don't really understand the backstory, and I don't think the movie does either. We only know this because the movie starts out with the first of probably about 30 minutes worth of stock footage of a forest burning, and then later on they mention something about it. But yeah, so this movie is probably 35% stock footage. There's a lot of stock footage. There's a lot of loop scenes. There's a lot of like weird, like, I don't know, they keep cutting back to the same take of an actor smiling over and over, and it's very weird. It's very bizarre. The killer, and this is not like this is the big reveal at the end, but whatever. I'm gonna spoil it for you. The monster is played by Carl Struycken. I'm probably mispronouncing that name, but everyone's probably familiar with his work. He would go on to play oh god, what's his name? I'm totally blanking. The character in the Addams Family in the '90s films, and then the giant in Twin Peaks. Yes, Lurch. Thank you. So yeah,
even though Paul said it, I'll take credit for it.
Yeah, everyone's familiar. Well, you said it louder, so it counts more. Everyone's familiar with his work, obviously. And yeah, great. They young Carl Struycken. They cast him as the killer. Obviously, very physically imposing. Unfortunately, he only has about 5 seconds of screen time at the very end of the film for some reason. Yeah. So this is also notable for, I guess, being, I don't know why I bothered to look up all this trivia, but whatever. The final screen appearance of Jackie Coogan, who coincidentally, if you're not familiar with that name, played Uncle Fester on the original Addams Family TV show. Actually, you know what? Okay, here's kind of a weird little piece of trivia, though. So yeah, he played Uncle Fester. He was in a shit ton of things. You know what his first credited role is?
Jackie Coogan? Little
Yeah.
Rascals?
Yeah, wasn't it?
No.
Was it the kid?
It was the kid
with Charlie Chaplin.
The Charlie Chaplin kid,
wow.
which I thought was kind of interesting. Anyways,
Yeah,
that's a random piece
child
of,
star.
Yeah, so these are I'm really listing these are two of the three actors that have actually been in other things. The only other one is Jackson Bostwick, who I was not super familiar with, but apparently he was Captain Marvel on the old Shazam show. And
wow,
he's featured on this in this movie because there's an entire sequence where he just sits there and drinks beer and plays a banjo for like 5 minutes, and then they periodically just cut back to him like drinking beer and playing the banjo for no discernible reason while kids are getting murdered. So anyways, this movie is amazing. Nothing happens in this film until about the last 30 seconds. I just honestly kept watching because I was like, surely something's about to happen any minute now. Apparently, so there's, I guess this movie's 97 minutes. Apparently, there was an 80-minute cut, and this is where it starts to kind of make sense. I guess they added 17 minutes of just like random footage,
music and drinking. Yeah.
Banjo music, drinking, a lot. Again, like there's a whole scene where they're in the campfire, like they're at the campfire, I guess, telling stories, and it keeps cutting to random stock footage of like wildlife, and they very, very badly loop the audio in, so you hear this woman say the same line like 20 times. And so I can't imagine, but even if you cut this movie down to 80 minutes, it would still be 80 minutes of nothing happening. So I don't know. Anyways, once again, the movie's The Prey. I'm not really even recommending it. I was just kind of amazed at how little. I don't think
I'm going to recommend it to Decades of Horror because this is literally something
please.
I haven't heard of. And while you are yammering away, I went on Tubi and started skimming through it. That's some gold there, man.
Yeah, it's good. And I will also mention my final note on this. So apparently this was written and directed by a husband and wife team, Summer Brown and Edwin Brown. I was like, I wonder what else they made. Maybe their filmography can explain
Sure.
kind of this film, which is so I went and looked, and so here's some of the other titles that they've written and directed together. So For the Love of Pleasure,
Ooh.
1001 Erotic Nights, Naughty Girls Need Love Too, Every Woman Has a Fantasy.
Okay, you're talking porn
Every
here.
woman,
I mean, I believe.
Every Woman Has a Fantasy too,
Yeah.
and probably their best work, in my opinion, Every Woman Has a Fantasy 3. And I will mention, and I only mentioned this though because I was like, okay, this movie has like one pair of bare breasts for about 5 seconds. I was actually kind of stunned. I was like, for a husband and wife team that made a bunch of porn, and then they tried to get into the horror, I guess, industry, and that didn't work, and they went back to porn. It's a very actually, I don't know, borderline PG-13 film. So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. I've already talked about this movie more than it deserves. Although, Bill, please, for the love of God, get them to do it on Decades of Horror. I would love to hear.
Yeah.
I would love you to subject other people to this, and then hear them have to talk about it. So please keep us updated.
For some of the stuff they've subjected me to lately, yeah.
There you go. This is honestly a wonderful piece of revenge for all that.
They've got that. I mean,
I guarantee.
That guy, what's his name? Carol Strickland or whatever.
Yeah, it's Carl Stroiken. I'm probably
He's incredibly
mispronouncing that,
tall. He's really genuinely tall, no fake. And you're watching how they filmed his 10 seconds of footage at the end, and it doesn't look like they had a particularly tall guy. They just, were using.
No,
you've got a genuine giant here. Make that obvious. Make it obvious that you've got this living special effect.
Yeah.
Anyway, who am I as a filmmaker? Who am I to tell the people who did Every Woman Has a Fantasy 3? I mean, maybe I need to just stay the hell in my lane.
Exactly.
And
exactly. Right. Come on now. Unimpeachable after that film. So yeah, The Prey is playing on Arrow Player, which was where I saw it, but it's also available on Dark Matter, Screenbox, and as Bill mentioned, it's on Tubi. So you can get it regardless of whether or not you have one of those fancy subscriptions to any of those cool services. So I'm done, and I'm assuming, is that the end of the episode?
It is.
It is.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. Anybody got anything to
out on?
Is there any songs from
I mean, I can pick up the old banjo and play it for about 5 minutes here while I have a Coors banquet.
Oh.
You're welcome to if you want. I'll defer to you if you'd rather.
It's fine. It's not in tune right now, so
I feel like Every Woman Has a Fantasy 2 is one of those porn films that actually did spring for its own theme song, and then they just kind of like a lounge singer. Every woman has a fantasy. I don't know. Give me a C, a bouncy C.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Zach's good at coming up with the melody.
Oh, yeah. No, I like the one that Bill just had. Every woman has a fantasy.
It's a movie that stars John Leslie, not to mention Nina Hartley.
And who can forget Rachel Ashley?
Yeah, there's a lot of...
Oh, sorry. She's in Every Woman Has a Fantasy Part 1, which is what I'm looking at. I apologize. I ruined it.
For the weekend of January 13th, Bill recommended Blood Simple, available on HBO Max and the Criterion Channel, and Blood, available on Tubi. I recommended Blue Monkey, available on Tubi, and Life Force, available on Tubi, Hoopla, Pluto, and Freevee. Paul recommended The Menu, available on HBO Max, and Eating Raoul, available on HBO Max and the Criterion Channel. And Zachary recommended The Prey, available on Tubi, the Arrow Player, and Screenbox.
Erica Boyer, Francois Papillon. He had a butterfly on his ass. Kristara Barrington in one of her early movies when she was underage, and that's probably why you're not going to find Every Woman Has a Fantasy in its original unedited form. Let's see. David Morris, who probably most famous for doing the pool room rape sequence with Marilyn Chambers in Insatiable, and then later on went on to make gay porn. Yeah.
Mm.
And I know
Huh.
way more about this than anyone who teaches school should know.